In typical fashion, I took a bunch of notes. Let's cover the Diablo 4 Campfire that just happened, and then I'll give you my opinion on it. So it launches January 21st, so it's coming up very soon. You're going to go for Witchcraft powers. Eldritch is weird, uncanny, bizarre. Magics. Psyche or Psych is mind and spirit. Growth and decay, heals and harms. On the Witch power, something that we've been asking for millions seasons is when you actually upgrade your Witch powers, it's going to stay for your alts. So you're not going to have to level it up a bunch of times. So head hunts are new whispers. They spawn a boss. You claim the missing heads. You get Witch powers. Root holds have a concentrated population of head rotten. They need a special key to access them. Occult gems are powerful gems that you put in jewelry. They updated the Tree of Whispers town. You can now turn in your Grim Favors without going back to the tree with the ravens. And there's better rewards. This is probably one of the steps and something that I've been asking for about Diablo 4 forever is at the very end of the seasonal journey, there's going to have a more difficult final chapter for better rewards. You get a flying pet. I actually thought the flying pet looked pretty cool. They need a lot more of this. Diablo 4 is already a pretty good game for the casual player base, or the people that don't have a lot of time, but there's very little offered to the people who blast the game all the time and really like to invest their time. They need a lot more things like this in the game. Then they talked about balance in general. The ultimate builds were too strong in the PTR. If you didn't remember, they had a huge PTR for this season already in December. I couldn't play it because I couldn't connect to the PTR, so I just gave up. So I actually didn't play it. First PTR I ever didn't play, actually. And then players are applying too much crowd control to monsters. They can't even fight back, so they're going to change some things with that. In general, summons and companions got a massive, massive update. They're more powerful and they're very connected to the stats that you have and the things that you do, and they made some bug fixes. So things like summon necros should be godly next season. They went through all the classes, and one thing that I actually appreciate they did and was pretty brave of them, I can't confirm or deny this because I didn't play the PTR, is they actually gave us like the data on how good they thought each class was. So they kind of gave us their own version of a tier list, which is interesting. They said Barb's in a good spot. Hoda and Whirlwind was weak, so they buffed it. And then the unique that they get is Hoda hitting an earthquake causes an explosion. They said Sorcerer, no doubt about it, was the weakest class, so they're going to buff the passives of the Sorcerer to make all of their builds better. And then, as we have seen before, we've talked about this before, there's two different uniques. You choose one or the other. You either turn Ball Lightning into a super bowling ball, or you do the more standard rotating Ball Lightning that everyone loved in Season 2. They said Druids were in a solid place. Blurred Beast, the Shred updates reminded me of Enhancement Shaman Wind Fury. It actually looked pretty cool. The Spirit Boons have been behind, honestly, for a long time. They said there's massive buffs there, and they don't get a unique, so still going to do 17 damage. They said Rogues are very strong. They updated the Rain of Arrows build, and the Shadow Clones now actually copy your legendary effects. So they showed the Shadow Clone in action. It's honestly like you just have like a duplicate of yourself. It actually looked pretty sick. So Rogues should be really happy about that. Necromancers had a bugged build that was way too strong in the PTR, but they said Summon Necro will be peak. A massive improvement. So all the summon players, Necro might be the way next season. And then they also said they upgraded the companions and the conjurations and stuff. The unique Blood Wave casts a Bone Prison and then turns Bone Spear into Blood Spear, which reduces the cooldown of Blood Wave. In general, uniques like this are what have really been missing from Diablo 4 for a long time, and I think Blizzard has finally figured this out. You need uniques that do actual game-changing cool things, like change your ability, and then the new ability starts reducing the cooldown of your ultimate so you can cast the ultimate again. Really, like, more complicated interactions like this will make the game more fun in the end game. So I'm glad that they're demonstrating that they're continuing to go down this path, because there's not that many. There's not that much of that currently in the game. It's way more exciting as something like this than something where it does 10% more damage. That's just super boring. And then the other way is the two waves pull all the enemies in and collide and kind of smash them together. So the Spiritborn, they said it's very strong even after they give him colossal nerfs. It's arguably still the strongest class, so they're not going to really buff anything here. Razor Wings will be updated, and the Unique is going to enhance their focus skills. And then they said, looking at the two things that they provided for the seasonal bonuses, the Occult Gems were very, very strong in the PTR, so they just made some changes to them, but the Witch Powers were behind, so they buffed them. The Armory is here now. You can save, you can load, you can name builds. It saves their equipment, skills, and Paragon. It's bound to your characters, so your alts can have different loadouts. It's free to change. You can change as much as you want, whenever you want. And you can access it in many areas. This is obviously an amazing feature that they're adding to Diablo 4. It does need to be said that some of the allure of it is probably taken away, because this is a feature that should have been on launch or shortly after launch, right? A year and a half later, it is great that we're getting it. I don't want to just be a crybaby, but in the future, I really hope that these key features are available, I don't know, in the beginning. Other changes, whenever you have increased greater affixes, 2, 3, 4 greater affixes, used to get that on a unique that you really wanted, but then the power would be minimum rolled and it would be garbage. Now every GA increases the potency of that unique power. So when you get a 3 or a 4 GA item, it's going to be really good every time because they're very rare anyway. It's now easier to max out your codex. It was like impossible last season. And now, once you do your class mechanic quest at 15 or 30 a single time ever on your account, you don't have to do it again. If you do it again, it drops a cache, and they demonstrated it, and it dropped 2 legendaries, which is actually very good in the early game. So it is definitely worth doing the class quest again if you want to, but you don't have to if you don't want to. You just get the bonuses right away. They said, is there going to be a mid-season patch? Yes, it's going to be to bring up the lower builds, not nerf things. Do those caches scale to your level? Yes, they do. But they said there's other ways to get the caches so you don't have to wait on it. Do previous completions of the class quests, like in the past, do they work for Season 7? Yes, they do. You don't have to do it again. Plans to reduce the visual clutter. They'll talk to the UI team. And does the Armory have its own stash space? Not right now, but it might come later. So to round this out real quick, just to give you my opinion here. Hi, Callie. Just to give you my opinion. I think if you look at the changes in the scope of Diablo 4, I think this season, if I compare it to the other 6 seasons we've had, will probably be one of the better ones for Diablo 4. We get a key feature like the Armory. I think that some of the uniques that they're making now are way more interesting than the uniques that they have made in the past. I think the overall polished level of Diablo 4 is better now than it ever has been. So I do think that Diablo 4 is improving as a game. And if I compare it to what they've done in the past, I would say overall this is better. Then, of course, the obvious thing to do is to compare it to what Grinding Gear Games is doing. I think it is pretty obvious that Grinding Gear Games' magnitude of their changes, and also on top of it, the polish of their changes, is just higher right now. There's no other way to say it. So when you compare the two, I think Grinding Gear Games is just kind of outworking Blizzard. I don't know if there's an easier way to say it. I don't dislike Blizzard. I don't hate them. Some people do. I don't. I'm still wishing for all ARPGs, including Last Epoch and No Rest for the Wicked. I want all these games to be godly. Decent effort from Blizzard here for Blizzard. But if you want to compare it to Grinding Gear Games, I think they're behind. So I will log in. I will try to make a tier list here. I'll tell you what build I'm going to play. I'm going to play it for probably at least a couple of days, maybe a week. I don't know. It just depends on how much fun I'm having. But Yeah, I'll get in there and kill some monsters, and let's see how it goes.